Welcome back to another episode of the Career Ready Great Dane podcast. It's a podcast out of the Career and Professional Development Office at the University at Albany, and I am Jessica, and I have a special guest, and I will let her introduce herself.
Hi, Jessica. My name is Sydney Pasholti, and I graduated from UAlbany in May 2024 with a Bachelor in Atmospheric Science, and I am now employed by GE Vernova.
Okay. So, yeah, my first question was kind of getting into a little bit about you. So you did talk to us about you. Did you tell us about what you studied?
Yes, I studied atmospheric science. That was my major, and I had a double minor in math and emergency preparedness, homeland security, and cybersecurity.
Okay, wow. All right. And so let's go back to when you first arrived at UAlbany. When you first came, what did you think you wanted to do career-wise? And how does that relate to what you're doing now?
So when I first got here, I did not quite know what I wanted to do career-wise. And I remember back in like 7th or 8th grade, I chose my major and I stuck with it. And I never had any second guesses as to changing it. But all the way through then and to when I graduated, I did not quite know what I wanted to do. And I kind of just knew that everything would fall into place as it's meant to, and did my job searching post-grad and applied to different position. But I had an idea that I knew I didn't specifically want to do teaching. That was just one thing I knew I didn't want to do.
Okay.
But then I found this job here at GE Vernova, and now I'm an engineer, and I'm very excited. I'm very happy with where I'm at.
Okay. So what did 7th grade Sydney want to do originally?
7th grade Sydney knew she loved the weather, and she just wanted to be just all about the weather. And
okay.
Yeah.
So when you were doing your search for colleges, did that help with your decision making? Were you looking at specific majors that tied into weather-related careers?
Yes. So I specifically was just looking at colleges that had atmospheric science majors, or there's a little bit of a difference between atmospheric science and meteorology, but I was down for either one of those. But yeah, ultimately, I remember I applied to around like 12 schools, and I just kind of went from there. And UAlbany ended up being the school that I chose.
Okay. And it's interesting you said, I knew I didn't want to be a teacher. I think sometimes that helps to inform us too, right? We're so focused on what do we like, what do we want, what do we value, that sometimes we're not also thinking about what are the definitive no's, and that's information too. So that's good. Mm-hmm. So was there a moment along your path where what you're doing now became a little bit clearer or maybe changed entirely? Or did you kind of choose UAlbany atmospheric science and that was sealed the deal and you pretty much had a clear path?
I would say doing atmospheric science at UAlbany really introduced me to different career paths. And during my time in my undergrad, I had 2 internships, and I very much am appreciative of the internship and everything that we did. But I knew in that moment that I didn't quite see myself doing that for a career. So I kind of took that and went with that and decided, hey, I'm just going to look for jobs that don't have that. Maybe I might do that maybe later in my career. I'm not sure. Who knows the future? But I just kind of took those. So took my internship jobs and knew I didn't also want to do teaching, and kind of put those to the side. And that kind of filtered out the kind of jobs that I kind of wanted to look for. Okay.
And that kind of dovetails nicely into sort of this next section of your experience here while you were at UAlbany, in that who or what had the biggest impact on you professionally while you were here?
So I would say that had to be the Office of Career and Professional Development. I was a PCA, peer career advisor, for a few years here, and I gained a lot of knowledge in things, how to act professionally, how to do my resume professionally. There's just so many things that I learned that I did not know beforehand, and I feel like that I wouldn't have known if I was not a PCA. Mm-hmm. And I was so happy that I had that PCA role during my undergrad, and it's helped me gain so much knowledge that I can carry into my adult life forever and ever. And I absolutely love sharing that knowledge also with my friends and my family, and whenever they're searching for jobs too, they always tend to lean on me because I have that knowledge now. And I think that really helped shape me professionally.
Okay. So definitely professionalism skills helped. What are some other skills that you gained throughout your time at UAlbany that maybe you didn't realize at the time would matter so much in your career now?
I would say my communication skills and learning to talk to new people. I grew up very shy, so that was kind of something that I've always been trying to work on, getting out of my shell and everything. And it started to get better in high school, but it really got better in college. And just meeting new people at career fairs, or if there was like a special speaker that came into a class one day, and just learning to network and talk to these people really makes a difference in how these people then treat you and everything.
Yeah, I think that's key. Do you have an experience that comes to mind in terms of networking that has helped?
I would say the job and internship fairs that the Career and Professional Development office hosts.
Okay.
Because I remember going to the fairs, and with the atmospheric science major, it's a very niche major here at UAlbany. Very small. It's a big major, but it's very small. And I remember always going to the fairs and thinking, I'm not sure if there's going to be any employers here for me today, but I still want to go and talk to these people. Maybe they have a referral or something, or they know a different company or a person that they can get me in contact with. And it's just about putting yourself out there. And I think that's what really helped me.
Okay. Is there anything you wish you had done earlier during your time at UAlbany? Almost like a cautionary tale for students who are finishing up their first year or their second year and still have some time left that you wish you have done earlier?
I would say start looking for jobs sooner than you think, because, say you're a sophomore at UAlbany, and there's not going to be somebody who's there to like employ you right at that second, but they may say, hey, come back to us in 2 years. I can have a job for you. And those are real cases that happen to people. And it's really about the sooner you start, the better it really can be for you in the future.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to networking.
Yes.
But I think what can be hard about networking is maintaining that relationship.
Yeah.
Knowing you're a sophomore and feeling like, well, graduation feels so far off, like maintaining that for several years feels like a lot. But I think it can pay off to keep you in mind because 2 years will fly by.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about your graduating and you're looking for your first full-time role. Walk us through, how'd you land your position, and like what did the process look like from application to offer? What was the timing like, all of that?
Yeah, so I definitely give props to the Career and Professional Development Office for helping me.
We are not paying you either.
No, but I definitely would say if it wasn't for the office, I'm not sure if I would have found this role at GE Vernova. And it really then also, again, like we talked before, it goes down to networking. And so I didn't find this job right after I graduated. It was maybe around like 4 or 5 months until, communications between myself and GE Vernova really started happening. And then that spark kind of happened. But from application to offer, I would say it was around like 2 months of a little bit of a waiting process. And then after the offer, it was again like another like 2 months until I actually then began the role.
Do you have an estimate on between the time, because you said around 4 months, do you have an estimate of how many jobs you applied to in that interim?
I would say maybe around like 20.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that. And I had a pretty open mind towards wherever I wanted to work. Yeah. I kind of told myself, hey, I'm down for moving to wherever in the country if a job finds me there. Yeah. And I ended up finding something here in New York, up in the capital region.
And what do you think helped you stand out as a candidate with GE?
I would definitely say it had to be my major. Okay. Surrounded by other people at GE, they have a lot of backgrounds in mechanical engineering. I am not a mechanical engineer, but there are a few other people who have atmospheric science degrees. So the work that I do at GE is very niche, and it tends to be much more of a necessary kind of little group that we have in the work that we do. And if it wasn't for having an atmospheric science major and them needing somebody in that role, then I would say I'm not sure if I would have been able to fit in there because everybody is a mechanical engineer.
Okay, so that set you apart, but you had skills within your major that made you, even though it's niche, it made you a good, viable candidate.
Yes.
Okay. So let's move into, you get the job. Congratulations. You're moving into your first role and what sort of that life looks like after graduation. What would you say surprised you most about transitioning from college to full-time work?
I would say the schedule. College is a totally different type of schedule. You know, you have your classes Monday through Friday, and then maybe you have a job or an internship as well, and you have pockets of free time in your day and everything to hang out with friends or go do an activity or do this and that. With working full time, I think the hardest part for me was adjusting my sleep schedule. That was the first thing. And then the second thing was realizing, well, what else can I fit into my day? Because then if I'm working like an 8 to 5, and then I tend to like to go to the gym after work. So then I go to the gym and then I get home and I'm like, okay, well, what time is there? So I tend to try to make time for myself and things I want to do on the weekends. And that was a big kind of shift I had to make.
Sure. Because you go from like small incremental blocks to like this one big block, which is work.
Yeah.
Very
true.
Yeah. What were your expectations, though, of post-grad life? Like, how did that compare to what you're living in reality?
I would say my expectations originally were just work forever until you retire, but it really does not have to be like that. And I found that there are ways you can make it not be like that, but it's just about how much do you want to do things for yourself. And it is a fact that your brain ages faster if you don't switch up your routine. So I like to take that and I like to fit in maybe like an activity on like a Monday night after work and maybe something else on a Friday, and then maybe take like a little weekend trip on the weekend, something to just mix up my routine now and then. And I feel like that really helps my weeks slow down and make it seem like a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree. I resonate with that a lot. I think novelty is helpful and brings joy into your life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, mixing it up and instead of having it routine can help. Especially, it's been a long winter. So
Yes, it has.
All right, so now you're well into your career. What advice, now that you're sort of on the other side of the coin, would you give to students who may or may not be thinking about their career development?
So I would, again, rewind and say, the sooner you start, the better. And if you can just show up to that job fair you feel like not going to, there may be somebody there that's for you who wants to hire you. You may have the perfect, resume and personality to match the exact role that they want. So you really have to go and put yourself out there, even on days you don't feel like doing it. It's super important.
Yeah. So reflecting back on your time at UAlbany, what's one thing you miss and one thing you definitely don't miss about being a student?
I'll start with what I don't miss.
Okay.
I feel like I don't miss the long nights and the homework stacked up and just the lack of sleep sometimes. That I do not miss.
Okay.
But one thing I do miss would be the sense of community that college is. It's just so different. You can be living with your friends. You can be having fun in classes, having fun in between classes, and the activities that UAlbany also has on campus. It's a lot of fun things to do, and it's just everybody's here to go through college, get their degree, and leave, but everybody's also here to make memories and everything, and it's just such a different sense of community, and I feel like I, myself, and also some other people who I know who are post-grad as well, kind of feel like we're kind of chasing that sense of community still post-grad, and there are things you can still do, such as join community groups and this and that. There are things out there to do, but college is just so different in a good way, in a very good way.
I mean, I'm many years out and I chase that.
Yeah.
I think it's so unique There's a convenience factor, right? It is such a fun time in your life,
Yes.
such a fun chapter.
It is.
Do you have community at work, would you say?
We
Are there
do.
folks around your age that you can relate to, or people that you can relate to in general?
Yes, there definitely are some people around my age. There's honestly, it's a good mix. It's a very good mix. And one thing about GE Renova is there are things called ERGs, and I think they're called like employee resource groups. So there's a few different ones, and you can join the groups. They do little activities. They might have a little festival thing you can do, take part of, and they do try to make activities not just inside of work, but also do things outside of work. Sometimes they have like ice skating or roller skating and fun things like that. And I think coming up, they have like a ski trip to like Vermont. Like it's really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So really, in closing, we talked a lot, especially about timing, starting early and thinking about things early, making the most out of your time here, and networking. Is there any other advice that we didn't cover that you want to share?
I would say definitely trust the process. If you have belief in yourself, you already are doing so well. And I would also say definitely recognize your blessings that you already have, because there's people out there who they wish that they were in college. They wish they had a degree. They wish they had the job that you had. You already are so much more blessed than you think. And if you count your blessings, it gets returned to you so much more. So if you just stay humble, be appreciative of what you have, and keep your head up and remain positive, you're doing so well for yourself.
Yeah. I think attitude is key.
Yes.
I think it's hard to remain resilient in a very turbulent job market. But I think persistence and resilience will pay off.
Absolutely.
And gratitude is always helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, thank you so much, Sydney, for coming in and imparting the things that are going on with you, but reflecting back and giving wisdom to current students. I really appreciate you taking time to do this.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for having me. This is amazing.
Sure.